Welcome back to a super late episode of the podcast after a busy week for me. So let's not hold up the news any longer. And starting off with the Google Pixel event, happened a week ago, basically, 5 days to be exact. But Google announced the Pixel 8 series, the Pixel Watch 2, Pixel Buds Pro, and Android 14. Now, Google's events, not like super exciting or anything. They're not like Apple where they go super all out, but to the point, hit what you need to, and move on, which isn't a bad way to do it either. But the Pixel 8 and 8 Pro, let's start off with those bad boys. They are, the best Pixels yet, as any company would say when releasing their new products for that year. So not very shocking. But with that, they also have, the 6.1-inch display of the Pixel 8 is a fraction of an inch smaller than its predecessor, while the Pixel 8 Pro retains its 6.8 inches. Pixel 8's resolution is exactly the same as before, 1080 by 2400, while the Pixel 8 Pro actually lost a little bit of density from 512 to 489 ppi at 1344 to 2992. Now, to be fair, at this resolution, at this size screen, the trade-off of battery saved might actually be maybe worth it. But the biggest benefit to the displays is the new Actua display, or Super Actua in the case of the Pro. Basically, these ones are extremely bright, so sunlight used for these will be awesome. The 8 peaks out at 2000 nits and the Pro at 2400. And both phones have screens of 120 Hz peak refresh rate. As most phones, it bounces between what it needs to depending on what you're doing. Both handsets will start at $699 for the 8 and $1,000 basically for the Pro. And meanwhile, the Pixel 8 Pro includes, a bunch on the camera. So the Pixel 8 Pro does get some upgrades, including display, Gorilla Glass Victus 2, and a bunch on the camera. Here are some camera highlights. The Pixel 8 will have a 50 megapixel main wide camera, a 2x optical quality zoom, and the addition of Google's Super Res digital zoom, blah, 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 that can go up to 8x. These will both have the Tensor G3 processor, and pretty much the main differences here is the Pro is going to get one extra camera. It's going to get a 5x telephoto. And on top of that, it'll get a couple of new features that the 8 won't be getting with their software. So maybe at some point, they're trying to make it different somehow. And that's what they're doing. But the big new features to know about here is the Magic Editor, which was already really cool for the photo side, is getting like a bunch of other things added to it. They're adding pretty awesome audio, like noise cancellation, I guess, for microphone. We'll be able to turn down wind noise. They even showed this wild one of a baby crying, and it cut out the baby, just kept the baby crying and cut out the dog in the background and the wind in the background. Got rid of a ton of things. Super cool. And that's what Pixels are known for. If you're looking at a Pixel, you're going for software. You're going for default Android with Google's little Pixel add-ons with a sweet set of cameras that are easily the best cameras you'll get in a phone. And the Pixel 8 Pro will be the first to run Google's new generative AI models on device. Now, the big news with that is the Google Assistant will be using these AI models, essentially barred from what we can tell, but it'll all be ran on the device. Pixel Watch 2 was also announced at this event. And, the first one had some mixed reviews with nowhere near all day wear. And, I guess you could wear it all day, but you wouldn't have batteries. So the point would be negligent. And so nonetheless, Google is actually fixing that and adding some other things here. So they will get full day use, they claim, will yet to be seen, but an improved heart rate monitor, as well as the addition of a pair of new sensors to give it a fuller picture of its wearer. Also, it will have a new skin temperature sensor and body response sensor, and these are borrowed from the Fitbit line. And, with new stress management features, the Pixel Buds Pro got an update here as well. Includes, features like conversation detection, which will help it, noise cancel the sounds around you to hear what you're talking to better, or vice versa. It also will use AI to detect when you start speaking and reduce background noise, or switch to transparency mode. And once you're done, it will resume your music. If you were listening to something, it'll pause that when it detects and unpause it when you're back to wanting to listen. And we'll see how that works. That could be potentially really cool if it works really well, but I have a feeling they're I mean, on the back end, there has to be some delay of when the conversation's over where it's trying to figure out if it's done for sure or not. And then it'll automatically switch back on noise cancellation mode if you would like. Android 14, what are the big things here? Some of these are actually just Google or like Pixel features that they're including in this here, at least in this article. But the Google Assistant, like I said, basically will be getting Bard added to it, which will hopefully be really cool. Hopefully that'll make it better at having, you won't need to use key phrases necessarily, or you can use like multiple commands in one strip. And because it's Bard, hopefully it'll be better at that, assuming it doesn't hallucinate what you wanted. Hopefully it will be better at that. And call screen got a little more updated here, definitely more realistic sounding one. And yeah, it's interesting. It's a cool demo, at least during the event. And having a Pixel in the past, it was cool. The Pixel Fold is getting a random update here as well, where it'll have a dual screen interpreter mode. So basically, because it has two screens, when you use Google Translate on it, it'll be able to use one side that you can show whoever you're talking to, and you can use the other side just to translate back and forth without having to like flip your phone or whatever else. Kind of cool, pretty, just shows that Google's trying to support folding phones, I guess. The biggest news here is actually part of this article as well, but Google will be stocking Pixel 8 spare parts for 7 years. This is on top of them announcing that they will also be doing feature upgrades for the next 7 years, as well as just software support in general, security updates, all of that stuff. Google is saying they will support for 7 years at least. Again, this is something Android phones have needed for a long, long time, is longer term support, because how else do you compete with Apple if your phone doesn't last as long? Because that's when they decide to stop supporting it. Google here stepping out to do this. To be fair, this is also a law that may be entering California for at least the spare parts end of things. But it is cool to see that Google is going to be supporting the parts, going to be supporting the software and security of the device. And the coolest thing here is that they're actually going to be doing feature upgrades, not just security updates, but supposedly you'll be getting, possibly next year's Pixel feature, like software features. And if not, at least new Android versions. It'll be yet to be seen, and Google kills so many things and has broken so many promises to Pixel users that hopefully they keep up with this, because that is easily, the Pixel updates every year are not outlandishly exciting. We're not going to get blown away by something new necessarily, but something like this is the main takeaway from the event, and I really hope that's what Google takes away, because so far it's what I've seen everybody talk about, but Google does Google things. Okay, and on to our next topic. Atari is releasing a new cartridge for its 46-year-old 2600 console. Now, the Atari 2600, I had no idea what it looked like, so I pulled up just a quick image here of what these things look like, and as you can see, they are different looking, to say the least. Cool. I mean, I've never played on something this old, but back then, TVs were color or black and white. There was a lot of options here for your video computer system. That is kind of interesting. But the new cartridge that they're releasing is called Save Mary and was actually developed during the golden years but never made it to store shelves. So why would you release it today unless for some reason you think that's going to work? So a gaming console that counts 1982 as its most successful year is releasing yet a new game for it. Now, Save Mary was under development for 2 years, which is a lifetime in the generation of gaming that preceded the NES, but the normal time frame to produce a game back then was 6 to 9 months, with some titles taking a notorious just 5 or 6 weeks. They used to bang out games back then. Now we look at years for games. And games like GTA, we're looking at tens of years somehow. But what are these things going to cost you way back later? Pre-ordering one of these cartridges for $60 nets you a silver collector edition box, full color manual in addition to the game itself. There are only 500 of these carts available, making them an attractive collector's item for Atari diehards. As for the game, Save Mary, it tasks you with, you guessed it, saving a lady named Mary. She's stuck in a deep canyon filled with rapidly filling water, and you can use a crane to build platforms to help her escape the dire predicament. And I guess it's cool that they're resurrecting a game for this, but like I mean, are these gonna sell on eBay for way more than $60? Like I'm kinda worried what people are gonna do when they actually get their hands on this. Um well, it's interesting. It makes you wonder if these have been sitting on shelves, like at an Atari warehouse somewhere, and they were like, hmm, maybe we should, maybe we should just try to sell those. We'll make them like a collector's item. Or were they like, oh, we still have the game code for this. Why don't we just release it as like a limited edition throwback for funsies? But it's mind blowing. But they're doing it. They're out here. They're going for it, and that's that. Next up, we have Lenovo executives are promising 80% of its devices will be consumer repairable by 2025. So, if you didn't know, a lot of these laptops are not user repairable. But it is cool that we're starting to turn this around and getting it to the place where Apple's making it so people can repair their devices. Google's going to support 8 years of Pixel 8 parts. 7 years. Sorry. 8, 7 numbers, blah, 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 blah. But the big announcement was from a Lenovo executive, Luca Rossi, who told some random person that the batteries, SSDs, and many things will no longer be sealed into the product, but will be available for the consumer to repair on site and then save a lot of waste. Now, there is a company called Framework that popular YouTuber Linus Tech Tips has invested in, or Linus Sebastian himself. I don't think it's not his company, just him. But the cool part here is it either that or all these other right to repairs are all of it. It's probably just all of it are forcing these companies to have to think about repairability of their devices, which is great to see because at the end of the day, even if you're somebody who's just going to go buy a new one when it's time, like maybe you don't care, but maybe a part breaks early and you're like, I bought this thing. It broke. I was hoping to keep it for another bunch of years. I can spend a few $100s instead of $2,000. Quite a better deal. And it will project the longevity of the rest of the parts in your device. So Lenovo is just one of many companies to have suddenly increased their efforts on repairability and sustainability. And it isn't coming out of the goodness of their hearts. Some of this might be the goodness of their hearts, but majority would say that it's due to everybody complaining and pressure from governments and blah, 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 blah. Apple has gone from lobbying against right to repair to suddenly supporting those efforts. And as we all know, if Apple does it, everybody else will soon follow. Then, Samsung and Google were convinced when they saw consumers get behind it and get behind legislation for it as well. And in 2023, everybody is just starting to do it, especially after Apple being forced to put the Type-C port on the iPhone 15. It is clear that when consumers want something, they will make it happen. And Lenovo is just trying to get ahead of the ball here, making an announcement, going, hey, we think we can do it in this period of time, which for some of their more like WTF devices or foldables or laptop, whatever the heck you want to call them, this might be the way to go anyways, and we'll just have to wait and see if they actually hit their day. But it'll be great because as of right now, a lot of these devices are not very easily user serviced. And next up, we have 23andMe. Now, I can say that I have used 23andMe, but private user data is up for sale after being scraped off their site. Now, I would say that today I probably wouldn't do something like this. As somebody that likes privacy, I think this would be something I would no longer do. But they said some of their user data. I saw some reports saying that, it was a few 100,000, close to 1,000,000 or 2 or 3. There was a lot. And says this here says, they're talking about all these heritage sites that have been hacked. And the problem with a site like this is at the end of the day, a lot of this information these sites actually hold, and with genetic and DNA and stuff like that, a lot of this is super, super private information worth a lot. And it just shows the lack of security that these companies put your money towards, I guess. They don't really care that much. And with stuff like that, it just um you just gotta be careful with who you're giving your information to. Sure, it's really cool to see your heritage, see people that are part of your family tree that maybe you didn't know were, or how closely related are you to, some famous person. It's cool to see all of that, but at some point you got to take in how safe it really is. Um, Basically, it was just a data scraping, a technique that essentially resembles large amounts of data by systematically extracting smaller amounts of the information available to individual users of the service. Attackers gain unauthorized access to the individual 23andMe accounts, all of which have been configured by the user to opt into DNA relative feature that allows them to find potential relatives. And this just sucks, but we see more and more of this. It's not just these um like relative search feature people or DNA testing people, but uh for some reason they seem to do it the most. So there's that, or at least we hear about them the most, maybe because it is more sensitive data that people would be more likely to click on. And you know, just be careful with your data out there. And lastly, probably the most interesting thing of today, for me at least, is ChatGPT owned OpenAI is exploring making its own AI chips. And I've heard about the chip shortage. We've seen how quickly GPU prices and CPU prices have all gone super, super up and up and up. And this is, on the backs of OpenAI. It's being one of the largest companies to buy cards over the last uses 10,000 of NVIDIA's graphics processing units. And running ChatGPT is very expensive for the company. Each query costs roughly 4 cents. Every time you go on there, you search something that costs them 4 cents. And that's not very cheap. If ChatGPT's queries grow to a tenth the scale of Google's, it would require roughly 48.1 billion worth of GPUs initially, and about 16 billion worth of chips a year to keep it operational. So, what is your solution if you are reliable to this company known as NVIDIA that will make money off of you in any way they can? Your new plan is to make your own chips. Now, this is just something they're talking about. An acquisition of a chip company could see the speed of process of building OpenAI's own chip as it did for Amazon. So they're just looking around right now. They're shopping. Are they going to do it in house? Are they going to buy somebody? How much does Microsoft want to really get behind them and help out? Um, Now, OpenAI is declining to comment on all of this, but it is pretty clear that generally once you get to a size that they have gotten to, at some point you want to start relying less on others, which means buying your own and doing your own chips. So with that, they're gonna have to start doing that and looking into it at least. Nvidia supplies 80% of the global market chips best suited for AI applications, and OpenAI is not about that. So with that, thank you for watching this episode of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you guys in the next one. See ya.